Somewhere between your last exhale and your next unspoken thought, your mind is quietly composing the world you believe is simply happening to you. There is a subtle moment when the quantum field around you rearranges itself because a single belief in your nervous system loosened its grip. As your chest rises and falls, billions of neurons synchronize into a hidden prayer, and reality bends to the rhythm of that silent chant. Every time your spine shivers with the memory of an old wound, the universe receives a vibrational instruction about what kind of world to mirror back to you. When your attention softens into the space behind your forehead, a portal opens where particles become possibilities, and your entire life waits to see which story your awareness will bless. Your heartbeat is not only pumping blood, it is broadcasting an electromagnetic signature that quietly invites matching experiences into your daily existence. In the quiet tremble beneath your ribs, an ancient intelligence is deciding whether to repeat your past or allow a new timeline to crystallize in the quantum field. When you relax your jaw and unclench the muscles around your eyes, you momentarily deactivate an old survival program and glimpse a universe that was always kinder than your fear allowed you to see. There is a version of you already living in deep peace, and each thought you entertain either strengthens the neural bridge to that reality or dissolves it back into unmanifest light. Right now, as you listen, your mind is not just interpreting the world you see, it is radiating subtle frequencies that are sculpting the next scene of your life before it even arrives. There is a quiet secret your life has been keeping from you. The world you see is not merely in front of you, it is also inside you, crystallized from the whisper of your last unquestioned thought. Notice the way your breath moves. There's right now the subtle expansion in your chest, the almost imperceptible pause between inhale and exhale. In that interval, the quantum field waits, listening to the emotional tone of your nervous system, attentive to the story you are silently repeating about who you are. Without announcing itself, your mind has been conducting a symphony of electrical impulses, chemical messengers, and vibrational patterns that inform reality how to appear for you. What you call my life is the echo of that invisible music. A question begins to arise. If your mind is quietly creating the world you see, what happens when you become gently, lovingly conscious of the thoughts you have allowed to play on repeat for years? Stay with that question. We have not reached the most important part yet. Let your awareness drift down from your forehead into your throat and further into the center of your chest. Notice the subtle warmth there, perhaps a tingling behind your sternum, almost as if the space itself is waking up to being noticed. This is not a metaphor. The heart generates an electromagnetic field many times stronger than the brain, and every beat sends a rhythmic signal through your nervous system, teaching your cells what emotional reality to prepare for. When the heart is in coherence, when its rhythm becomes smooth and harmonious, brain waves begin to synchronize, and your perception of the world softens. Colors seem kinder, sounds feel less threatening, and people appear less like enemies and more like mirrors. Could it be that peace is not something you need to find outside, but a frequency your heart-brain network learns to stabilize from within until the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself in response? Feel the weight of your body where it rests. The pressure of gravity is a constant reminder that you belong here, that matter itself is welcoming you, that you are anchored in a vast field of unseen support. Inside your abdomen, muscles that worked all day are beginning to loosen. Perhaps you notice a small uncoiling near your navel, a sense that tension is no longer required to hold your identity in place. There is more to this than relaxation. Each time your body softens, your survival circuitry, those old pathways carved by fear, shame, and unworthiness, turns down its volume, and the deeper non-local aspect of mind can begin to speak. Non-local mind does not live behind your eyes or inside your skull. It is not confined by skin or bone. Non-local mind is a field of awareness that permeates every cell and simultaneously extends beyond the borders of your body, like an ocean recognizing itself in each wave without being limited to any one of them. You have tasted this field in brief, luminous flashes, a sudden knowing before a decision, the way your skin tingles when someone you love thinks of you, the odd timing of synchronicities that arrive as if the universe were answering questions you had not yet put into words. These moments are not accidents, they are the footprints of a deeper intelligence, the evidence that consciousness is primary and matter is its expression, not the other way around. When your thoughts, emotions, and nervous system signals become coherent with this deeper field, the world you see starts to reflect that coherence. Life events feel less like random attacks and more like precise, compassionate instructions for your growth. You may notice a quiet expansion behind your sternum, as if your breath is beginning to remember that it was never supposed to be rushed, that each inhale is an invitation and each exhale a surrender. Stay with this expansion. Something is beginning to awaken. For most of your life, you were trained to believe that your mind is a commentator, a narrator that describes an already existing world. Yet the quantum field is not a fixed stage, it is a shimmering sea of probabilities, and your attention functions like a lens that collapses possibilities into tangible experience. This is the observer effect, not as a cold scientific principle, but as a living, intimate process happening within you right now. Whatever you repeatedly observe in consciousness, fear, lack, conflict, or peace, abundance, connection, tends to crystallize into the events and relationships you encounter. Your nervous system is the bridge. Every thought you take seriously is not just an abstract idea. It is also an electrical impulse traveling down your neural pathways, accompanied by hormones and neurotransmitters that bathe your organs, your muscles, your heart. If you habitually rehearse danger, even when no immediate danger is present, your body floods itself with signals appropriate for war, not for peace. Your shoulders tighten, the muscles around your eyes constrict, your breath becomes shallow, your heart rate changes. In this state of chronic micro-emergency, the world you see appears sharp, threatening, and narrow because your brain is filtering reality through the question, where is the next threat? But what if your cells could learn a different question? What if your biology could become a living inquiry into where is the next moment of grace? Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, is not merely a concept in textbooks, it is the living alchemy by which the mind that once looked for danger can gradually become a mind that looks for coherent connection, subtle beauty, and quiet miracles. Feel the back of your neck, the base of your skull, the gentle curve where your spine meets your head. Beneath your fingertips of awareness lies a river of nerves carrying signals between brain and body, past and future, fear and possibility. As you bring soft attention there, the nervous system begins to sense that it is being seen not as a machine to be pushed, but as a sacred instrument capable of tuning to new frequencies of experience. There is more to this. We are only beginning the descent. Notice the shape of your spine from within. Each vertebra a small altar where the stories of your life have been stored as muscle memory and posture. Every time you collapsed your chest in shame, rounded your shoulders in defeat, or stiffened your back in defiance, your spine recorded that gesture as instruction. This is how we meet the world. Today, something different is being invited. Let your spine lengthen by a few millimeters, as if a subtle golden thread were drawing the crown of your head upward, while the base of your spine roots even more deeply into the earth. As this vertical axis awakens, the energy that once dispersed as anxiety begins to gather, to rise and fall in more coherent waves, like a tide remembering its rhythm. Along this axis, ancient traditions spoke of centers of subtle intelligence, vortices of energy that modern language might describe as intersections of nerve plexuses, endocrine glands, and electromagnetic patterns. These centers, at the base of the spine, the lower abdomen, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the forehead, and the crown, are not mere symbols. They are invitations to inhabit your body as a living temple where matter and consciousness meet. The world you see is filtered through these centers. If the lower centers are dominated by fear, scarcity, and unsafety, the world appears hostile, and every interaction feels like a negotiation for survival. If the heart center is constricted by old grief, unprocessed disappointment, and unspoken forgiveness, the world appears emotionally hazardous, and vulnerability feels like a risk you cannot afford. If the throat is tightened by years of silenced truth, the world appears untrustworthy, and authentic expression seems dangerous. Yet in this moment, with each breath, your nervous system is being offered a new pattern. Neural networks that once fired together in the choreography of fear can slowly dissolve, and new pathways aligned with peace, clarity, and compassion can begin to light up. As this happens, the image of the world you carry inside begins to change, and life responds accordingly. You may find that people who once triggered you become mirrors that no longer need to provoke your nervous system into battle. Their words arrive, but your body does not interpret them as threats. A subtle but profound shift emerges. You are no longer unconsciously recruiting the world to confirm your old pain. There is a question forming in the silence. If you are no longer committed to repeating your suffering, who are you? Do not rush to answer. Let your breath answer first. Feel the inhale moving through your nostrils, cool and textured, traveling down the back of the throat, filling the lungs. Feel the exhale leaving, warmer now, carrying traces of what your body no longer needs. Each breath is a message to the quantum field. This is the frequency I choose to stabilize. When your breath is rushed and shallow, the message is one of fragmentation, urgency, and separation. When your breath slows and deepens, the message changes. I trust, I belong, I am willing to see differently. As the breath slows, the heart rhythm follows, the brain waves reorganize, the entire system begins to move from incoherent stress to coherent presence. In coherent states, your perception becomes more inclusive. You notice subtle details in the environment, the softness in someone's eyes, the way light spills across a room, the sound of your own heartbeat as part of a larger symphony. This is where your mind stops being a frightened commentator and becomes a conscious creator, not through force but through alignment. There is more to this. The most important insight is still approaching. Somewhere in your past, there was a moment when your mind decided that the world was not safe. It might have been a sentence spoken in anger, a betrayal, a loss, an invisible atmosphere of neglect. Your nervous system encoded it as law. I must protect myself from life. From that day forward, your mind quietly created a world that confirmed this law. You noticed the people who betrayed, the opportunities that vanished, the doors that closed. The quantum field is generous. It does not discriminate between the stories you cultivate. It simply responds to the frequencies you stabilize with your attention and emotion. Your body, too, became loyal to this story. Muscles learned to tense before contact. The jaw learned to clench before speaking. The heart learned to brace itself before loving. Now, as you listen, another law is being proposed. The world I see changes as I change the way my nervous system meets reality. This is the collapse phase. The old identity, anchored in hypervigilance, reinforced by neural pathways and emotional habits, begins to crack. You may feel a subtle tremble in your chest, a quiver in your abdomen, a mix of relief and fear, as if some internal architecture were being dismantled. Thoughts may protest. If I stop expecting danger, won't I be unprepared? If I soften, won't I be hurt again? These are the voices of neural patterns that have spent years keeping you alive in the only way they knew how. Honor them, and then let your breath answer again. A long, slow inhale, a gentle exhale, and with each cycle, imagine not a picture, but a sensation of weight leaving your shoulders, as if armor was sliding off piece by piece. Your spine, once rigid from carrying the persona of the guarded self, begins to move more freely. Subtle waves of flexibility return, signaling to your brain that the present moment is not the same as the past. This is not positive thinking, it is somatic liberation. Your muscles, fascia, and cells are updating their relationship with reality, and the quantum field, sensitive to every shift in your electromagnetic and biochemical signals, begins to rearrange in response. You may notice that certain relationships feel less compelling, not because you are rejecting anyone, but because the vibrational contract that held them together is dissolving. People who resonated with your unhealed wounds may drift away. Situations that belong to an older frequency may lose their grip on your attention. Internal chaos can arise here. Part of you feels lighter, freer, more spacious. Another part clings to the familiarity of suffering, the known discomfort of repeating the same story. This is the sacred turbulence of rebirths, and with this moment, we have not yet reached the most important part. Deep in your abdomen, beneath the swirl of surface emotions, there is a steady warmth, a kind of quiet fire that has never gone out, even in your darkest moments. This warmth is the presence that watched every thought, every heartbreak, every triumph. It was there before your first fear and will remain after your last anxiety dissolves. When you sense this presence, even briefly, your mind touches its own source. Consciousness not as a personal possession, but as a universal field expressing itself through your nervous system, your personality, your unique history. From this vantage, the world you see is not a prison, but a mirror. If the mirror has been showing you conflict, this presence asks, what unintegrated conflict within you is ready to be seen and loved? If the mirror has been showing you loneliness, this presence asks, where have you abandoned your own heart, leaving it waiting at the threshold of your attention? As you begin to answer, not with words but with breath and sensation, the mirror changes. Feel again the center of your chest, that space which opens when you are deeply moved, when music touches you, when the sight of a sky at dusk momentarily halts your thoughts. Let your awareness rest there as if it were sitting by a quiet lake, watching ripples form and dissolve on the surface. Now notice the heartbeat, its steady rhythm, and recognize it as both personal and cosmic. This is your heart, and at the same time it beats in harmony with every other being whose life pulses on this planet. Each beat sends a wave through your blood, through your nervous system, into the quantum field, declaring, I am here, I exist, I matter. When you feel unworthy, the amplitude of that declaration diminishes. When you rest in inherent worth, the signal becomes clear, coherent, undeniable. The world you see responds to this clarity. Opportunities appear where there were none. Not because the universe suddenly changed its rules, but because your inner lens finally allowed you to register them. The same conversation that once felt threatening now feels neutral or even supportive, because your nervous system has been rewired through repeated experiences of presence, breath, and self-compassion. This is neuroplasticity in service of awakening. Each moment you choose to stay with your body's sensations. Instead of abandoning yourself to spirals of thought, you strengthen new pathways. You teach the mind to consult the wisdom of the heart and the stability of the spine before reacting. Over time, this creates a new baseline: calm alertness instead of anxious vigilance, curious openness instead of rigid defense. From this baseline, the world you see becomes a living curriculum of love, even when it is challenging. There is more to this story. The field is still speaking. Your mind was never meant to be a tyrant. It was designed to be an instrument of exploration, a tool for translating the infinite into the particular. When it over-identifies with separated existence, it becomes trapped in loops of fear and control, and the world appears as a battlefield. Tome. When it remembers its origin in the non-local field of consciousness, it becomes humble, fluid, and creative. The world appears as a canvas for compassion and beauty. The shift from battlefield to canvas is an inner event. It happens when you begin to feel your thoughts not as rigid truths, but as transient vibrations moving through awareness. A thought of self-criticism arises. Rather than fusing with it, you sense how it tightens your chest, constricts your throat, speeds your heart. You notice the cost of believing it. Then, gently with a slow exhale, you let that thought pass, as if allowing a bird to fly out of a small room into the open sky. Neurons that used to fire in patterns of self-attack do not receive reinforcement. New patterns of neutrality and kindness begin to form. Your inner monologue softens. Silence begins to punctuate your days. In these small silences, another world peeks through. A world in which you are not separate from the trees, the clouds, the strangers in the street, but part of a single breathing organism. Consciousness looking through your eyes sees itself in every face. As this recognition deepens, your choices change. You speak more gently, not out of obligation, but because aggression feels foreign to your nervous system. You move more slowly, not from laziness, but from the understanding that presence is more efficient than frantic struggle. You begin to prioritize coherence over urgency. Coherence means that your thoughts, emotions, and actions align with your deeper values. It means your spine, heart, and mind are telling the same story. In coherent states, the world you see reflects integrity. Synchronicities increase, doors open at the right time, challenges arrive as teachers rather than punishments. This is not magical thinking, it is vibrational alignment. Your entire system broadcasts a clear signal, and the quantum field, ever responsive, organizes around that signal with precision. There is still a layer deeper, a revelation waiting at the threshold of your awareness. Underneath all practices, all breathwork, all neuroscience, there is a simple recognition. You are the awareness in which all experiences arise. The world you see appears inside this awareness. Your body sensations appear inside this awareness. Your most cherished beliefs and your most persistent fears appear inside this awareness. This awareness itself does not contract when you are afraid, does not expand when you are confident. It simply is, open, luminous, and still. When you rest as this awareness, even for a moment, the entire structure of me versus the world begins to soften. The mind continues to create interpretations, stories, and images, but you recognize them as passing weather, not as the sky. From this place, you can choose consciously what kinds of thoughts you allow to take root, what emotional climates you nourish, what worlds you are willing to see. If you plant thoughts of separation, the world you see will oblige. If you nourish thoughts of unity, compassion, and possibility, the world that you see will gradually rearrange to reflect that inner orientation. This rearrangement is not instant. It unfolds through time, through neuroplastic changes, through altered behaviors and new choices, through subtle shifts in the people and situations you magnetize. Patience is part of the path, but this patience is not passive. It is active trust. You trust that each breath in coherence is a vote for a kinder reality. You trust that each moment you rewrite an old pattern in your nervous system, you participate in the evolution of consciousness itself. You trust that peace is not the end of your journey, but the atmosphere in which your true journey begins. Feel again your breath, your chest, your spine, your abdomen, your heartbeat, not as concepts, but as living sensations, as the language your body speaks to the quantum field. As you feel them, notice if there is now a little more space, a little more softness, a little more willingness to be fully here. In that willingness resides your greatest power, for when you are fully here, present in your body, anchored in your breath, aware of awareness itself, the world you see cannot help but become more luminous. Colors may not change, but the way you relate to them does. Challenges may not disappear, but the way you meet them transforms. Life may still bring storms, but you discover that you are not the storm. You are the sky in which the storm appears and dissolves. This changes everything. The mind that was quietly creating a world of anxiety can now quietly create a world of meaning, beauty, and connection. The same neural circuits that once supported ruminations of fear can support contemplations of wonder. The same heart that once braced against love can learn to relax into receiving and radiating it. The same body that once signaled chronic unsafety can become a sanctuary of calm presence for others. As this happens, your influence becomes non-local. People feel more at ease in your presence, often without knowing why. Conflicts soften when you enter a room, not because you say the perfect words, but because your nervous system broadcasts coherence, inviting other systems to entrain to that frequency. In this way, your inner work silently contributes to the world you see, the world we all share. Peace is no longer an abstract ideal. It is an embodied frequency, a living transmission that extends beyond your skin, beyond your personal story, into the shared field of human consciousness. And the world responds. You begin to notice more acts of kindness, more moments of grace, more subtle invitations to collaborate rather than compete. You recognize that what you once considered out there is deeply entangled with your in here, and this understanding brings both humility and empowerment. The journey does not end here. Consciousness is infinite in its creativity. Yet for this moment, let there be stillness. Let your breath slow. Let your awareness rest in the space behind your heart, where a quiet certainty glows. Your mind is quietly creating the world you see, and now with tenderness, with wisdom, with the support of the quant. Field, you are choosing a world infused with peace. Stay with this moment. Something that has always been within you is beginning to take its rightful place at the center of your life, a calm, luminous presence, aware of its own power to shape reality through vibration, coherence, and love. From this presence, step gently into each new day, knowing that every thought is a brushstroke, every emotion a color, every breath a new chance to paint the world you wish to inhabit.